Hello everyone, it's Lindsay, and today I'm going to be doing a Bible journaling process working through the Come to the Table devotional kit from BytheWell4God, and I'm squeezing this in before I leave for the weekend. Things are kind of super hectic crazy around my house, so I'm not going to go too much into the Bible study aspect because I think that the devotional does an excellent job of that. So I would encourage you to grab the devotional if you haven't already. And so today we are journaling through day 2, titled God Will Provide, and we're looking at the story of Abraham and Isaac. And this is where Abraham is commanded by God to take his son Isaac and take him to the top of the mountain and basically kill him, use him as an offering. And right at the last second, right as he is going to kill him, God intervenes and says, nope, stop. I have a lamb for you. Don't kill Isaac. And so God provided this perfect lamb to be sacrificed in Isaac's place. And so there's tons and tons of scripture reference in the devotional content for today, and I'm just loving working through this devotional. I've actually read ahead quite a bit, just read through the devotional content, and I am currently teaching the Seamless study by Angie Smith, and this goes along perfect with that. As I'm reading this, I'm like, oh yes, I know who that is, or I know what that is, or I know what this event that's taking place is because of that study. So it's really kind of gone perfectly well with that. So I am pretty familiar with this, so I didn't do a whole lot of like digging in or taking notes because I've already done that as I'm working through another Bible study. So I'm just going to do an entry just reflecting on the fact that God will provide. And I was looking at some of the pieces here, and it really started thinking about how God will provide in his timing. So he didn't provide a lamb in place of Isaac at the very beginning. He waited until the very last second, his timing, and then replaced Isaac with a lamb. And so I'm going to use one of these clocks and kind of just talk about, God providing in his timing. So I do have this stamp set here. This is Spring Petals. If this is sold out, I'm not sure if it is or not. They've been really good about restocking the stamps as they sell out. So don't worry if it's sold out. I'm sure it'll come back. And if it's there, then it's there. I'll link it down below for you guys. But this one's really, really pretty. Coordinates with the kit. And I thought we would do some heat embossing today. So I have some copper embossing powder and thought it'd be fun to emboss these. Do a little bit of watercolor, throw together some journaling, and call it good. So I am journaling in Genesis chapter 22, and this is where the sacrifice of Isaac story is. So it kind of starts on here and then goes on the back side of the page, but I'm going to do my journaling here. So let me go ahead and put you on fast forward, and we will get this page put together today. Okay, so we are going to do, like I said, some heat embossing, and so I am trying to kind of lay out and position where I want things to go. And this is kind of a trick maybe that I don't always show, is just the figuring out where things go, laying things out before I commit to them. And that way I know that I'm leaving room for my title and for my journaling and things like that. So I'm going to do some stamping behind this die cut piece, and I want to make sure that this is exactly where I want it to be. So what I do is actually stick down the stamp where I want it in relation to that die cut, and then I'm lining up my stamp block so that it's flush with the top of the page and with the margin edge, and then picking up the stamp, if that makes sense. That way, you'll see here, I'll ink this up with some clear Versamark. This is a sticky ink. And then I can line that block back up, you can see, and that stamp will be exactly where it needs to be underneath where I had the die cut. So I kind of do that throughout this page. So you can't see the stamping because it's a clear sticky ink. And then I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle some of this copper embossing powder over the top of here. And since I did prep the page with my EK Success powder tool first, the powder only sticks to the clear sticky ink. If you want more details about heat embossing, I will link a Tip Tuesday down below where I talk all about it, give you all the tips and tricks. So check that out. But you do want to set this with your heat tool. So you heat this up until the powder melts and is like shiny finish. And that is how you know that it's set there and it's got this metallic finish. Now, most embossing powders do bleed through Bible pages. If that bothers you, you can try prepping your page, or you could stamp these on a piece of cardstock and then cut them out into die cut shapes if the bleed through bothers you. But the bleed through is going to only be in the margin that I'm working on today, so I can just cover the margin on the back side, not a problem. So I'm just trying to figure out where I want all of these florals in relation to the die cuts. Again, I'm lining up the edge of my block with like the edge of the Bible page as I pick up the stamp. And then that way I know exactly where it's going to stamp down. And that just really helps with positioning. Now with embossing, you do have a little bit of time before the ink dries. So you could go in and do all of your stamping and then all of your powder and then all of your heat setting all at once. But for the sake of you guys so that you can see what I'm doing, I kind of stop and do each step, and also it kind of helps me be able to see where everything's going to go. But you can see that top flower I have not heat set yet. I've just applied the powder, and then now I'm going to go in and add these stamped images down at the bottom here, and then that way I can just heat set everything all at once. You have a few minutes before you start having problems with the ink losing stickiness, so you can kind of work quickly and do multiple steps all at once. So I'm just kind of creating like a frame around the margin. I am sticking to the margin so that I don't cover up the text. Embossing is pretty opaque, so you wouldn't be able to see the text, and I'll show you how I add some more images to this here in a second that I can see through. So now that everything's been stamped, I'll go ahead and heat set this. Now everything will be linked down in the description box down below if you want to see about the ink that I use, the powders that I use. If you're having problems with heat embossing, it may be one of those two things. It might be the sticky ink that you're using. I suggest Versamark. It might be the embossing powders. If you are using the Recollections embossing powders from Michaels, you are not going to get good results. That's horrible embossing powder. So try Wow or Ranger. Those are much, much better embossing powders. So now, because these are embossed, I embossed them because I wanted that metallic finish, but it also creates little like borders or edges on the image. And so when I go in with these watercolors, I can really be messy because the watercolor is going to stay within those little defined areas where the embossed images are. So I'm using the watercolor swatch card that comes in the kit this month. You can see I have mine on a ring with all the other ones. I'll link a Tip Tuesday down below talking about how I did that and giving some tips on how to use these swatch cards. So check that out if you want some more information. But I love that the colors perfectly match the kit, so I don't even have to think about it. I don't have to mix colors. I am on crunch time. If you guys are not following me on Instagram, my stepsister is getting married this weekend while you are watching this video, and I am filming this the night before I leave, and I have like no time at all. So I'm trying to like rush through and get this done. I don't have time to mix paint colors, so I'm just going in and dropping the color in. These stamped images are a little more sketchy and imperfect, so it's okay if my coloring is imperfect. And I do drop some darker colors into some areas just to add a little bit of shading, but this is just gonna be kind of in the background there. So there was all these really pretty clear stickers in the kit, and so I thought, why not pull these out and use them to kind of continue this frame that I'm creating, but I can put these over the text and still read the text. So I'm kind of picking and choosing some that I can add over the text and still be able to read it. And it also just adds a different texture. So it's not all stamping, it's not all heat embossing, it's not all die cuts. It's kind of a mixture of everything, and that gives your page just some more depth and interest as you look at it there. So now I can start sticking down that die cut piece. And I pulled out these metal gears. These are so awesome. I know I want to use them on somewhere, so they kind of float around for a little while before I commit to them. And before I commit, I'm kind of still digging through the die cut pieces because I only have that one die cut in the top left hand corner, and so I need some more die cuts on here. So I pull this gear and just continue to kind of build up this frame that I got going there. I'm going to add some watercolor splatters because who doesn't want that on their page? I'm all about those splatters. So I just use one of the gold, kind of goldish colored paints there. And girlfriend doesn't have time to wait for paint to dry, so I hit it with my heat tool really quick, and then I just use a paper towel to pick up any of the paint that's kind of just not wanting to dry quickly. And then for my title, it's going to say God will provide in his timing. So I'm using the coordinating alpha stickers in the clear and the tile versions. And since I was careful about where I laid out my stamping, I have perfectly left myself this little nestled area for my title up here. And I love that God Will Provide was in the stickers. And so this page actually came together fairly quickly, even though, I did a few different techniques and it looks like it might be kind of complicated. It actually came together pretty fast. So here I'm coming back to these gears. I'm going to use it to fill in some of the kind of awkward blank areas. And to attach these to your page, you want to use very specific glues. Not any glue is going to work for this. So I'm using Ranger Multimedia Matte. I will link it down below. This glue is specifically made for things like this, for mixed media, for attaching metals and glass and rocks and mixed media elements like that. So I've squeezed some out onto my stamp block there, and I'm using my finger just to apply a little bit of it to the back of these items, and then I stick it down on the Bible page, and then I'll actually stick that stamp block on top of it to hold it down while it dries. This glue does dry pretty quickly, and it does dry matte and clear, so if it does, make a mess and ooze out, it's okay. You can't really notice it, and this adhesive really works well for attaching items like this. You could also use matte gel medium. That might work as well, but Ranger Multimedia Matte is one of my favorite kind of all-purpose glues for that. For my tab, I thought about using one of the die cut tabs. You can see I have one kind of laying off to the side there, but I decided that the color doesn't quite match the color pinks that I've used in the page, and I'm going to keep it simple. I didn't want to mess with like washi tape and all that, so I decided just to go ahead and use one of the fabric bows. I like to retie them into that other bow style and just slip it over the top and call it good. So I'm going to go in with my T-ruler, give myself some journaling lines, and journal a prayer into this blank area, and that is going to be it for the entry today. So definitely check out the description box. I'll have links to everything down there. Grab this kit if you haven't already. It's a good one, and it's gorgeous on top of that. So you can't pass it up. It's amazing. If you have any questions or comments, be sure to leave those down below. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to my channel if you're not already subscribed. And until next time, thank you so much. Bye-bye.